Hi, and welcome to Waiter Nation. I'm your host, Michael Fagan. I'm from Atlantic City. Today, I'm joined with Pete Vargas. He's from Michigan. Pete's the organizing director of Restaurant Opportunity Centers in Michigan. He also belongs to One Fair Wage. If you work in restaurants, you're going to want to know about these organizations. They go around to different states. They change laws. They get waiters minimum wage plus tips, not the 213. Right now in March, when the pandemic happened, I was actually on the phone for them. They raised a ton of money and they send money directly out to people hit hard financially because of the pandemic. And I'm happy to talk to you today, Pete. I am a big fan of the organization. I met you guys 2 or 3 years ago in New York, and I follow you. Thanks for all the work you do. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, doing well. My allergies could be doing a little bit better, but I'm doing okay. Glad to be here today.
Okay. So first, the people that are not familiar with ROC or One Fair Wage, tell us a little bit about what you do in regular times.
Sure, absolutely. And again, thank you for having me on. ROC, which stands for Restaurant Opportunity Centers of United, is a nonprofit national organization that actually started right in New York as a relief center for the survivors of the World Trade Center restaurant. There was a restaurant on top of the World Trade Center called Windows of the World. More than 2/3 of those workers lost their lives that day. And the other third that didn't work or were just on their way to the shift or just getting off the shift were the fortunate ones to survive. And they were without agency. They were without, they just experienced a trauma, a tragedy. Many of them were immigrants and people of color and women from all over the world. And they didn't know what to do. And on top of that, they lost their friends and family. It's a very close group of communities that were there. They played soccer together, had birthday parties together, so there was just a lot of confusion. And so one of the workers, his name is Sekou Sibi, connected with an organizer by the name of Saru Jayaraman and said, you know what, let's get together and get these workers together and see what we can do to try and help find some jobs, any kind of help, to their families. What ended up coming out of that was actually something pretty magnificent. From that moment of creating a group of restaurant workers who were coming together during a period of trauma, not unlike a trauma that we are experiencing right now, right?
Right.
What ended up coming out of that was an opportunity and a venue and a mechanism for restaurant workers who've been left behind when it comes to the development of wages and benefits and unionization, all that stuff, right? For for literally over 150 years.
Right.
So now we are national. We're in 12 different states, and we've created a fantastic opportunity for workforce development trainings and policy where we can get workers involved directly in making it an industry they want to see.
Right. So a lot of the things what you do is you will organize in a city. I think when I was talking to you, it might have been was it Michigan and New York, where you're changing the laws. There's a lot of sexual discrimination against women that are in the job, that they have to take a lot of grief from customers to make a living. So you fight for that. You also fight, one of the big things is minimum wage, to get paid a wage, and then you get tips on top of it. But you start off with making a paycheck each week, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's since Lyndon B. Johnson in the New Deal and the New Deal created the first minimum wage. There was a two-tiered wage system that was created for restaurant workers that were tip workers. But most folks don't know is that actually came out of slavery. It was because most of the tip workers at that time were actually African American, and only 40 years previous were freed slaves. And so the workaround behind not having to pay slaves and women a real wage was to create a two-tiered wage system for tip workers. And that hasn't changed in in literally 150 years. And in 150 years, the federal minimum wage is only $2.13 for tip workers, right? So we've done a lot of work with folks that said, you know what, that's not good enough, and it's antiquated, and we need to do business in a better way. And we have thousands of employers that agree with us that says, you know what, I can be a good employer, but it doesn't, and I can make money, but it doesn't have to be at the sacrifice of my employees making not enough to even survive. So yes, one fair wage was one of our key campaigns to try and change that. It's not the only one, but we do work with a lot of workers and employers on trying to eliminate systems of oppression as well as sexual harassment.
I remember a couple of years in talking with Saru and how you work with politicians to actually change. One thing that really stuck out to me was that even if a restaurant was paying $2.13 an hour, and that's what I've been getting since the 80s, right? And I've had some union jobs a little more, but it actually works out better for the employer. Which, if you think I have to pay the employees more money, this is going to cost me so much more money. But in the end, the numbers work out that it works out better for the employer, for the restaurant owner, correct?
No, absolutely. When you've been in the industry long enough to probably see thousands of turnovers in the establishments that you've been in, right? It doesn't take a rocket science to know that it takes time every time you want to train somebody up, or you have to double up on shifts, or back of the house is feeling some kind of way because front of the house isn't at par, and vice versa, right? So what we found is, in restaurants, and we did longitudinal studies and regular research with employers who've opened up their P&L statements to us that says, guess what? When I pay my workers, the regular minimum wage at the very least, plus tips, okay, and get creative with finding ways to offer, earn paid sick time, or to give them some sick dates, or, buy into a co-op health insurance. Those are incentives that that show that you respect and have dignity for your employees, and your employees are going to respect you. They're going to say, you know what, this is a reciprocal relationship where I can be my best self and also be healthy too.
Yeah, a lot of people in the restaurant industry, especially these days, feel like we're all alone. I mean, we are getting the brunt of all the headlines each day. We open up, we close down. We're looked down upon because we're collecting unemployment and sitting at home collecting, where it is against the law for me to go to work right now. I'm not allowed, you know. So other things that ROC is involved in, you have a training center in New York.
We have we've had one of the things that also came out of the relief center that we created back in the day for New York rock workers was the idea of talking the talk. So creating a restaurant model that allowed us to show folks that you could do business in a different way. We called it Colors. We have a Colors here in Detroit, a Colors in New Orleans, and a Colors in Oakland. And we use it, but we use it predominantly as a working facility and a training facility to be able to offer a bartending, culinary, art of service, and leadership development classes to restaurant workers at no cost, as well as food handlers licenses too.
So you can go in there and improve your skills, or if you're a young person wants to get into the industry, you can go to the center and you can learn about the industry, build a resume, get some contacts, and actually get a job then afterwards.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's awesome.
So, and we've been spending a lot of time, also I'm a father of essential workers. My kids are restaurant workers, and are experiencing some of the same challenges and fears that that's happening right now. We are in different times. We are in the middle of a pandemic. There's a race and culture war happening right now, where the flames are being fanned from all the way up to the top.
Definitely.
of the of the political spectrum.
How about so now in these times, back in March, Jordan from Pittsburgh, he reached out to me. You were raising an enormous amount of money, and you were trying to get direct relief out to waiters, restaurant workers around the country. I made about 300 phone calls in New Jersey. Is that still ongoing? Still trying to raise money? Still trying to?
Absolutely. Here in Michigan, the actual per capita of workers to the restaurant industry in Michigan, we're like the second highest per capita, ironically, in the country, for the number of our employees being, our workers being in the restaurant industry. Crazy. We have 1.2 million employed workers in Michigan, and nearly two-thirds of them are restaurant workers or connected to the service industry. So, and 400,000 of them are unemployed right now.
Yeah, and I think a big struggle now too, and a worry on my mind is every day that if I get called back, and when I get called back and get off unemployment, because that's a crutch right now just to get through it, and then you work for 2 weeks and maybe get shut down again, and now you're off unemployment, now you're collecting on, now you have to wait your 2 weeks again. Now, it's such a hard thing in this industry to plan a month ahead, 2 weeks ahead.
Yep.
Whether you're back at work or not, because so many have gone back and then been called back and went home, right?
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate because, our unemployment infrastructure was not designed with the intention of so many restaurant workers being out of work as well. You know what I mean? Their system has crashed. We still have tens of thousands of folks that qualified for unemployment that still never even gotten their first check yet, and are already like running out of their qualification and having to go back to work without even getting their first paycheck. So we've been doing a lot of work with legislators, both on a state level and a federal level. There's an act called the HEROES Act right now that I really want to lift up. It spells just like it sounds, HEROES Act. And that is an act that would expand the unemployment benefits and insurance that would include folks like yourself that are in the restaurant industry or tip industry that have fallen through the cracks of what's going on right now. So we're really trying to do what we can on a policy level to expand the qualifications for unemployment, to expand the length of time for unemployment, and also to expand the amount that you actually get. For those that are qualifying for, the federal relief unemployment benefits that's attached to the traditional, that's $600 a week is like, some tip workers have never even seen that much money doing the industry, especially when you're not at a high end or upscale casual. You might be working at Denny's, or
right, sure.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and that's really the bulk of the service industry is the Coney Islands. It's the ones that aren't high ticket that are really feeling the brunt of it. And those are the ones that we're really looking out for too.
Exactly. And I think that, it makes me angry when people say like, oh, well, they're just sitting home getting their $600. They don't want to go back to work because they're making more. First of all, I'm not making more on unemployment than I was when I was working. But if you are, it's a couple months. It's not, you weren't given $1 million for doing nothing. There's not, if you were low, and then that goes right back to the economy. That was the whole point. Build the economy. Go buy a car. If you can't buy a new car, buy a used car. Go to Amazon and buy some new things. Go to the supermarket. That's why it was there. It shouldn't be held against anybody. I tell a story many times. I went out.
It's your tax dollars.
Right. It's our tax dollars. And unemployment itself is mine. I see my account. We pay into it. So
absolutely.
And it's not our choice to sit at home. It's literally against the law for me to walk into my restaurant and serve. So that's where that is. I say the story all the time. I went out to my neighbor 2 weeks ago, and he goes, "Hey, you back to work?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Well, at least you're making that big money." And I thought, no, I'm not. I'm not actually making more. I'm taking a hit every week. However, I'm getting by. But that's just the general. He didn't mean anything wrong by it. It was just the way of thinking to do that. And this federal relief, the $600, myself and my coworkers, we do group chats like I guess every restaurant's doing in the country. We're looking at the news are we going to get to 600 again? Because that's what's holding us over. Because we're certainly in New Jersey, we're not allowed to no indoor dining right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in a steakhouse that's indoor dining only. I was working before this started. I was working breakfast on Saturday and Sunday, and I was working steakhouse through the week. So I get to both levels. You know, like I was working high end, and I was also working fast casual. But I can't because I don't have a patio on my restaurant, and we were supposed to open a couple June 2nd, and then that was called back. And now with the explosion of these numbers, I don't see myself or many of us going back to work soon, right?
Well, I certainly hope not. My personal inclination is that, that we're not putting you in harm's way unnecessarily, just like we shouldn't be putting our children in harm's way on the decision to go back to school too early. My son, who's was an essential worker for McDonald's. It was his first job, first job ever. Never missed a day of work. Worked for a back of the house breakfast morning prep. He was a burrito guy, burrito kid, right? Slinging 300 burritos, breakfast burritos in the morning. And it took 6 weeks in, almost nearly at least a month in before during the COVID crisis, right? It had already been established what was happening before corporate had even reached out to them and said anything about it, about PPE, about anything. And finally he said, Dad, he's like, I don't feel safe going to work.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, fine. You're not going to go back to work in anywhere you don't feel safe going, son.
Of course.
So I kept him home. And it was also at that time that the first stimulus check came out or was being established. I tell you what, I said, son, you have a choice here. You can go back to being an essential worker for a corporation that doesn't value you or your safety, or you can choose to do something yourself. And guess what? We took that stimulus check and we're putting him into business for himself. What I'm saying? So those are all the different things that can potentially happen out of all of this. Again, you're in a crisis. You can either make the most of it or not. But,
definitely.
Yep.
I know a lot of corporations, and they seem like they're just being compliant to the rules. Somebody I know works for a lab company, and essential worker, and is being asked to wear their mask for 5 days straight. And it seems, where in the front of the house, there's soap machines and hand sanitizers, and in the back of the house, there's not even paper towels to wipe things down. So it's just hot, it's uncomfortable. I mean, it comes with the industry, right? Those are the small things that people, we see headlines, and what I think is, oh my God, what about those people that just went off unemployment and now they're going to lose? Now they're back home again. What about those people? Are they being put into danger? My way of thinking, and I'm really confused about this, if in March we closed every restaurant and every place in the country, and we had 1,500, 2,000 cases in this country, and now in July, August, today I think I saw the headline 77,000. Well, it's at 77,000. We're going to go back to work. I don't understand how that actually works, right? Like,
yeah. So we are in a catch-22 right now. One, because employers, I get it. Like, they got to pay their mortgages, they got to pay their rent, and they know that their workers are running out of unemployment. They want to get folks back to work, and they want to get the economy going. We get it. Absolutely. Sure. Right. Also their PPP money, their extra funding, is running out too, for them to be able to say, what, I can either pay or at least keep afloat during this situation. Right. So I'm really, really hoping that this HEROES Act that's attached to the omnibus budget will be another reprieve, both for employers who are having to go through this, as well as making sure that workers aren't having to again make that choice of putting themselves in harm's way at the sake of having to make a living and potentially face eviction. The eviction moratorium was lifted, and hopefully I heard that it might have been reinstated again. But I can say this too is we've been working with the ACLU and with the Sugar Law Center and MERC, which stands for the Michigan Immigrant Rights Coalition, on a proper PPE protocol for restaurant workers. So it's like a poster, just like you see the work posters. Okay, we're going to be releasing a press release about that. We did that here in Michigan, but we want to present it to everybody or anybody that can do that. You know, this is some of the great work that's been happening here in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, but it'll be a poster that I'll share with you, Mike, and you can share it within the industry too.
Good. How about so every state is different, every township is different, city is different. Atlanta posted you must wear masks at all times. In different counties in Georgia, we're saying that. Then the governor said, no, it's not allowed for different cities to wear masks. In New Jersey, I have to wear a mask wherever I go, unless you're outside and there's social distancing. But you're listening to people from across the country, obviously.
Yes.
I mean, it's really hard mentally here in New Jersey because we don't know anything. How is it going across the country? Are people, what's...
You know, it's been a mixed bag. It's been a mixed bag because we have, I mean, I'm sure you saw even on the news that our governors faced persecution from, you know, the non-mask wearing wannabe folks that are historically and at least within this state are usually part of the alt-right. Okay. They're the ones that are really pushing for all their, you know, boats and, you know, to be able to be on the water and, you know, and all of these things, you know, they're the anti-authoritarians. So you mix that with, you know, so many people being in the restaurant industry who also, like, I'm getting calls all the time from restaurant workers who are saying, look, you know, I wear a mask, but none of our patrons have to wear a mask.
Yes.
You know, so I'm not protected against them, you know, so like what is fair? They just recently, there was just a recent the governor just made a decree that all folks going into retail and business establishments now have to wear a mask. So that's great news. And that's just happened as of like yesterday.
If that's the law and that's how we get open, I don't understand people not wanting to do it. I mean, we're here. Everything's closed. We're unemployed. The economy is getting killed. People are getting sick. If they say wear a mask, we can go back to work in 4 weeks. We can open up slowly. And by Christmas, we'll be back to normal. I just don't get it. I don't get the mentality behind that. I know it's inconvenient. A lot of my buddies are working outside. It's 100 degrees here in New Jersey in the summertime. They're sweating. It's inconvenient. They're working. They're trying to make some income, and we're trying to come back. I don't get it. I try to listen to everybody and not just be closed-minded all the time. That's something to me that doesn't make sense. So during this pandemic and since March and over the last 4 months, how is ROC reaching out? Are you communicating, raising money? What's going on these days?
Absolutely. We really want to take this opportunity to let, you know, the restaurant and service industry workers know that you are not alone.
Right.
Okay. That there are folks here that want to help you help yourself. Okay. We are not a charity organization. We are an empowering organization that says, you know what, you know, I want to be the change I wish to see. Right.
Yeah.
And providing infrastructure for you to be able to do that. Even, you know, this is such an important year for so many reasons. You know, it's an election year. Sure. And we also want to make sure that restaurant workers get to the polls, you know, that they vote their concerns. We want to make sure that our restaurant workers get counted in the census because that's so important, right? You know, and if you're interested in supporting, you know, your fellow restaurant workers and getting engaged, you know, if you're interested in making phone calls and phone banking for relief efforts or for getting people out to vote, Michigan would love to have your help. We'd love to be working with our folks from New Jersey, our brothers and sisters, and across the country on getting folks out to vote. All you got to do is text ROC to 79606. That's ROC to 79606. You'll get prompted, actually, right, almost directly from me, you know, and just it'll ask you, hey, you know, how do you want to get involved, you know? We'd love to hear from you.
In March, when Jordan reached out to me and I was calling people across New Jersey and some in New York, it was I did feel part of something. And all I was doing was help people fill out the application correctly so we could send it in and submit it so they could be counted, they could, right? And it ends up that I'm getting in conversations with people in my industry, from all, you know, breakfast workers to the chili workers to the high-end workers to maitre d's to cooks. I can communicate in Spanish. So I'm talking to Spanish guys and, you know, they got translators. And
what was that like for you, Mike?
No, it was very gratifying. It was, I felt like, and they were all thanking me, and I'd get a text 2 days later. And I was telling them, listen, I'm like you. I'm a waiter. I'm unemployed. I'm filing for unemployment. I know people in this organization and they want to help you, and they reached out to me. And so I felt like they were so gracious to me. And I thought, well, I'm really not doing anything. I'm sitting on my sofa making phone calls, but it helped me feel good. And the thing that you just said, I think so many people in the industry feel that we're alone right now because there's so many people that even in my immediate family are working from home, are, you know, so when I call my family on the weekend and I say, hey, you know, hey, this is the numbers, they don't know the statistics. And I realize it's okay. It's not front of mind to them. It's front of mind to us. And then sometimes I feel like, Jesus, nobody cares about the restaurant people, the bartender. I mean, they love us all. So to hear you say you're not alone, and I'm gonna put the text that you just said, the ROC text, I'll go back in after we're finished and I'll put it in highlights in the comments and stuff so people can reach out. But I think that's really important because so many people, they say we're all in it together, and yet everybody feels like they're in it by themselves. And I go over to my buddies, a couple of us waiters, and we sit out in the front yard and we just unload. You know, we say, this is what I'm going through in my family. What are you doing? Yeah, the same. You know, how about our buddy? We call it, you know, it's just trying to share so you're not alone in this all the time. And that's why I wanted to reach out to you. So hopefully people can know that they're not, and that there are some things going on.
Yes, we're in Boston, we're in Chicago, we're in New York, we're in you know, Las Vegas, Minnesota, New Orleans, Northern and Southern California, Washington D.C., Mississippi. We just opened a chapter in Mississippi, so we're really excited about that. But also, you know, if we go where folks have the demand to want to like get together and organize and help each other. So absolutely, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you know, are listening to this, you know, broadcast, you know, and Mike, I so appreciate you doing this because it's so important that that all of our intersectional circles start connecting in one way or another, especially within the industry, to help each other, right? So if you are, you know, interested in starting a chapter, or, you know, like it doesn't cost anything to become a member. Just so you know, like none of what we do costs money. It's all about you know, offering support, service, and agency, and network and camaraderie and support for each other. It's really what it's about, and making change. You know, so if you want, make sure you get a hold of us and or get a hold of Mike. He'll pass it along. And if you do text the ROC to 79606, whatever state you are connected to on your phone number, we'll have an organizer that'll reach out to you respectively, because it kind of just like automatically separates it. So
yeah, and I sometimes all I do is as simple as share something on Facebook or make a phone call, or you know, just try to participate and get the word out. It's not, you're not inundated by emails and, oh, I have to go here and protest. So sensitive subject in the country, racism, but you've been very involved in Black Lives Matter, correct?
Yes, here, at least here in Michigan. I mean, historically, before I, you know, did the work with ROC, I've always been an organizer, an activist, civil rights, indigenous, and you know, social justice at the very least. And so we are definitely in crazy times, and with the internet, and also just the overlapped compounding situation of it being we're in a pandemic, we're in a presidential year, and on top of that, there's some really fundamental differences happening in race views and purview. And so I'm super grateful and honored to be working with great folks like, Patrice Cullors and Angela Waters Austin here in Michigan, who was the co-founder of the Michigan Black Lives Matter chapter, and also with the Rising Michigan Rising Majority, which is the affiliate of Black Lives Matter for folks that aren't African American, but that are solid, allies of the Black Lives Matter movement.
I am, and I usually don't bring politics up because it's not what I do. However, I would say this also: if when you hear the phrase Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter, you don't get it, you don't understand it. I wish that you would. I wish that they would at least hear and try to understand it. That's my only point. That's what I always say. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. I'm not the one to argue the point with you because sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. But I wish people would just try to be open-minded and say, oh, that's what that means. Okay, good. Just try to understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those moments where by lifting up the voices of Black lives, okay, it isn't taking away the plight or importance of any other lives, but it's recognizing that institutional and historical racism or colonization has existed in this world because it's never been recognized, never acknowledged in history books to the nth degree. By lifting that up, you're admitting that there's an opportunity in front of us, because by addressing and lifting up the voices, some of the voices that have been the most affected historically in this hemisphere in our lifetimes of being on this hemisphere, that can tackle those structures and break them down, that will benefit everybody. Right. By lifting up Black lives, we're helping everybody.
I might lose half my audience, but I'm excited in South Jersey. We have a Kennedy running for Congress, Patrick Kennedy, and it's pretty cool. It's a good feeling, and I don't care if people don't like my politically. I don't talk about it much, and if you can't listen to me, then I don't care. But so as we move forward, as we go further in this year 2020 for restaurants, what's the future look like nationally, Pete? How do we, is it one day at a time? Is it what I pray for every day is a cohesive plan that we all follow that can push through, and that starts at the top. And whether you like Trump or not, I need him to get out in front of everybody and say, this is what we're going to do as a country. And whether you say he's my president or he's not my president, then we all move forward and we follow the guidelines, and we do it as one country. This makes me crazy that I'm in Atlantic City and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh all have different rules. And these are, I don't know what to do. And that's what makes me crazy. So I don't know.
I'm only 2 states away from you. So right. I totally get it. What I'm hoping is that we can actually just make sure that we have a safe holding pattern, regardless of who wins in November, right? And it's not just a matter of our president. It's all the down ballot folks. To me, I'm gauging success this year on making sure that our restaurant workers are alive and well. Okay, making sure that that they also even get politicized in a way that they never did before.
Right.
The old saying is, if you stand for nothing, you fall for anything, right? Well, it's ready. It's time to stand up for yourself. Okay, but you're not doing it alone. And as alone as we might feel, and secluded and separated, that's why, again, these conversations and the personalization that we're having right now and interactions is so important to say, you know what, I'm ready to walk with you, brother. I'm ready to walk with you, sister. Right. I'm ready to go to the next level of whatever happens post pandemic. But we're going to do it with a renewed sense of unity, that the bushes are going to be shaken to clear the air on, you know, whatever side you fall on. Okay, because I'll tell you what, it's both Republican, Democrat, and independent restaurant workers that are feeling what we're all feeling right now. Okay, you can't put a, you know, the COVID virus does not have a partisan thermostat. You know, so we're at a moment right here. We have an opportunity to stick up for each other, with each other, and we have an opportunity to have those uncomfortable conversations. Let's talk about race. Let's talk about gender. You know, let's talk about back of the house versus front of the house, right? The tale of two houses. You know, you know, let's have those conversations now, and then get it out of the way and move forward. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it has to start somewhere.
Yeah, the reason why I started this 5 years ago doing videos, I just wanted to put a spotlight, and I wanted to show that we are professionals. We're not low skill, low paid workers. That it does take skill and knowledge, and it takes a lot. And that's why I always put the spotlight on. Before one thing this week, you want to talk about Goya or no?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
So my daughters are all their mom's Colombian. So okay, so we got Goya. We got the half of the pollos, you know, wrapped up after you only use half, and then you put them back in the cabinet filled. And I called my girls and I said, hey, listen, are we gonna continue with Goya or not? And they said, what? So I told them about this, and she said, Dad, I need my adobo. Can I not use the rest? And I said, okay, that sounds good. We'll make I need the bouillons. We use the bouillons, but I think that people didn't get it. I think that a lot of people thought, so what? This company respects our president. I think that's fine too. Anybody can respect the president. I think the Spanish community, the Latino community felt that this was their loyal brand, and that the administration has not been very nice or fair to Latinos, and that's why they felt that this was they were getting stabbed in the back. Is that kind of?
That's part of it, you know, because I think that folks have some miseducation and some education to do about, you know, about colonization, you know, and that colonization was still very much happening and real in Mexico, Central and South America, and of course the United States. You know, the term like Latinos wasn't even a term or a word that was used when the Goya family decided that they wanted to be colonizers inside Cuba, okay, to start their you know, food distribution center, and decided that they saw cheap labor in Cuba and in Puerto Rico, and then, you know, in several other countries, that said, hey, you know, we have an opportunity here to exploit low-wage workers and make a buck. You know, we're talking about the 1910s here. You know,
right.
So fresh post post-slavery days, right? It's not a long time ago. And let it be known, you know, the Uñañez family we're part of the aristocratic families of Spain. Okay, they are not from Cuba. They are not from Mexico, Central South America. They are not indigenous peoples or communities from this community, right? They were, you know, they were carpetbaggers just like the Trump family was. That wanted to again, you know, take advantage. So so the loyalty could be misplaced. Why? Because it's just like any kind of banana republic. If that's the only can of beans that was accessible to them, you know, then all of a sudden that becomes part of your norm and your culture, right? So I really, you know, I think of it, you know, because especially within the restaurant industry, we are people that cook. We are people that create beautiful things every day that taste great, right? Use this moment. When I saw that we were going to pandemic, the first thing I did was I bought 28, and I live right in the downtown. I don't have a yard, but I got 28 5-gallon buckets to build my own garden, you know, just so I can make sure that I had ingredients, right?
Right.
Because you know what, we already know, you know, we have to stop being lazy on some things, right? There's some things that we can, if you want to stand up, you know, for yourself at times, you know, sometimes it's gonna just take a little bit more work, and we have to be, you know, not as lazy sometimes, or fall to the side of convenience. So Goya is not really just about you know, an endorsement of our president, okay? Because what happens also with the money from what you're paying for that can, you're paying for the popsicles, you're paying for all that other stuff, right? The spices, and they're using that money. I followed the money. You know,
Okay.
I looked at their political contributions, and every political contribution, they've made millions and millions and millions of dollars that have contributed to fighting a woman's right to choose.
Right.
What she does with her body. You know, one of their, I think it's his wife. It's either his wife or his brother-in-law who sits on the board. Gives $100,000 a year, like that. $100,000 a year to fight a woman's right to choose. It's really, you know. So if you look up, I challenge everybody, look up political action committee or political contributions from the Unyanye family, and you'll find all kinds of information.
Okay.
And that's
Tell
all
me
information.
Tell me the text number again. It's text ROC.
ROC to 79606.
79606. I'm going to put it. I just added it in the scroll, and I'll copy it again.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on this morning. You give me inspiration. You make me feel like I'm not alone. You make me feel like we got some hope and that we're going to get through this together. And keep up the fight, man.
Mike, I hope this is one of several or regular conversations that we can have. I'm also actually going to be, I started a show every other Thursday with Rock, where we're talking about, being a good resource for restaurant workers during this voting process, during this election time, trying to be as intersectional as we can. I'd love to have you on to talk about this show and what you're doing. Okay. And we could even make it a simultaneous live show if you want. Yeah, where, just to have some, have some fun, but also utilize, more of these conversations that that need to happen for sure. So thank you so much.
Definitely, I appreciate you coming on. I feel good. I feel good.
Good, you too.
Keep up the fight, Pete. Thanks so much. Thank you all for watching. I have some people from Florida and Georgia. I have people from other industries coming in this week. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody. Thanks so much for everything, Pete. You have a great day, man.
Thank you.